Hello, and welcome back to Paladin Financial Talk, where we dive into the world of personal finance, helping you make smarter choices with your money. I am your host today, Ellie Robison, joined by our always co host, Tony Shore. Hello, Tony.
Great to be here. Hello, Ellie. How are things at Paladin?
Busy. Everything's good. Everything's busy. I am actually taking a spring break vacation next week.
Oh, you are?
Going to Mexico, Cancun.
Nice.
My mother, she is turning 60 years old next week, so we're doing a little family vacation.
That's
Yes.
awesome. That is great.
Yes. So work has been good, and then I'm still in work mode for at
Wow.
least a day and a half, and then it is vacation mode for me.
Wow, sounds like a lot of fun.
Yes, I'm excited, especially
Wow.
because the weather here has not been as great.
No, in
So-
fact, speaking of that,
Mhm.
I could show it on the screen for our viewers out there who watch it on YouTube. But 2 mornings ago, I woke up and I usually do this when I wake up in the morning because my phone is my alarm. You
Yeah,
probably
me
do
too.
the same.
Mhm.
And then I hit the weather app, and I knew it was supposed to be cold. But I'm going to hold this up. I don't know if they can see that. Yeah, it's backwards, but -17
It's crazy.
degrees.
How
That was
cold?
the actual temp. Feels like was 22 below.
Yes.
That should never be an actual number.
Oh, I agree.
That
It was
they
awful.
Yeah, they said don't be outside for more than 10 minutes or you could get frostbite and your
Mhm.
eyes will start to
Mhm.
freeze. I'm
And
like,
schools,
what?
and schools were canceled because we
Yeah.
had low office staff in earlier
For
this week.
2 days. 2 days a lot of
Yep.
school districts were closed for
Yeah.
2 days
Which is crazy.
because of the temps.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're not here to talk about weather, but
No, we're not, but I think it's a highlight to talk about since we're in Minnesota.
well, since you're bailing on us to Cancun,
It's just for a week.
leaving us here in the freezing cold, that's crazy. I'm happy for you though.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah,
I'm
and your
happy
family.
for me too.
And that's neat for your mom and to spend some time with her too.
It's important to celebrate those milestones. Speaking of
is.
milestones, Jeff Foley had a 50th.
He did have a
birthday
50th.
a couple days ago.
Yeah, I
so
thought that
we-
happened a couple of years ago, but I was off. No, I'm kidding. Jeff's great. He's
No.
50 going on 40.
Yeah, he is a young soul.
Yeah, he is. He truly is. Okay. So, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so today we're going to dive into disability insurance.
Okay.
I know it's not the most exciting topic for
No,
most people, but trust
no.
me, it is a critical piece to your financial safety net. So I want to break it down today on what is disability insurance and then why you might or might not need it for certain people.
Yeah,
So.
it's to be honest for myself, I know a lot about some of these areas like Social Security maximization, retirement planning, IRA rollovers, these things we've talked about a lot, annuities, life insurance, but disability, when it comes to disability insurance or disability benefits, that is an area I don't know. So what are disability benefits?
Yeah. So, first things first, defining disability insurance is a type of coverage that provides income replacement if you were to become too ill or injured to work. So, unlike health insurance, which helps with medical bills, disability insurance will help make sure that your day to day expenses are covered if you can't earn your regular income, essentially.
Okay.
So,
that makes sense.
Yeah, so let's start with why you might need disability insurance in the first place. First off, to think about this, according to the Social Security Administration, more than 1 in 4 of today's 20-year-olds can expect to be out of work for at least a year because of disabling conditions before they reach retirement age.
Wow.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that means you have a 25% chance of facing disability at some point in your life.
That's
sounds
tough. That's
pretty
a
high.
lot higher
Mhm.
than I thought it would
Mhm.
be.
Yeah, I did some research on this. And so other statistics that I found through like the Federal Reserve website, even 56 million Americans live with disabilities.
Hmm.
About 38 million of them have severe disabilities.
Wow. Yeah, my dad gets disability insurance.
Does he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Paid through the Social Security Administration? Or
He has individual insurance as well. But
Yep.
yeah, he has individual insurance. It happened during his working years.
Mhm.
And so he had an accident and had an injury to his hand and then his back 35 years of over the road
Oh,
truck driving in a truck semi cab with no air
yeah.
ride before the invention of air ride cabs. I mean, now
Yeah.
riding in them is really great, but it wasn't back then. And
They're
so,
still considered a high risk occupation. I'll touch
yeah,
on
he
that a
has
little bit.
crushed vertebrae in his back. Plus, he was a
Oh,
furniture mover, so he'd drive across country with people's goods,
oh,
then help unload it.
poor man.
Yeah, yeah. So he's in constant pain, but he has disability insurance
Good.
that he had,
Good.
and then we have to fill out this form like every month to get it now,
Mhm.
or every so often, so the doctor signs it,
Mhm.
to get that paid out. But then Social Security, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
This was a talking point that I have for disability is Social Security.
sure.
Before I dive into that, I wanted to rattle off a couple more
Yeah.
statistics that I have in front of me. There is a fatal injury that occurs every 4 minutes, according to the Social Security Administration, too.
Wow.
Average duration of a long-term disability claim can be over 34 and a half months. I have in front of me. And then also about 51 million working adults in the US do not have disability insurance other than through the Social Security Administration.
Wow.
So these numbers are a bit alarming, but it's important to know that disabilities aren't just about tragic accidents. They can also be caused by things like chronic illness and severe back problems or
Sure.
mental health issues.
Yeah.
And this can keep you from working for weeks, months, or years, even.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to dive into it. Many people think that if something tragic were to happen to them, that the Social Security Administration would kick in and you get disability benefits. Most people know that, but the Social Security Administration has very strict guidelines and approval rates on what constitutes a disabling medical condition. So, on average, about 70% of initial Social Security disability applications are denied.
Wow.
Mhm. So it's a challenging process to navigate and it requires very strong medical evidence to support your disability claim. The largest categories that I saw when I was doing my research of diagnosis for disabled workers were intellectual disorders, nervous disorders, and sense organ disorders, which I don't know what sense organ disorders are, but I'm not a medical professional.
No, I'm not going to begin to try to even guess.
Correct.
So,
But a lot of people, just no, if you are diagnosed with cancer,
right.
easy, you'll get that disability
Yeah.
check from Social Security. So
Yeah.
those severe um, illnesses or disorders will apply to Social Security.
Yeah. I mean, 70% of initial applications
Mhm.
for disability through Social Security are
Are
denied.
denied.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I thought insurance companies were bad.
No,
That's,
it is very hard to get approved
that's
for your
tough.
benefits. Mhm.
Yeah. That's really tough. Okay.
So that makes us want to think about the other disabilities that might not be quite as detrimental or chronic,
Like,
not
can't,
not quite as bad as
yeah,
cancer, right?
yeah, right. So what about those? What
Mhm.
about those disabilities that aren't as necessarily bad or as critical as
Mhm.
cancer?
So, how we want to think of it is when you are in the accumulation phase of your life, when you are working on building up your retirement and nest egg for retirement, your most valuable asset is usually your income. Like
Oh, for
most
sure.
people are working
Yeah.
for over 30 years until they get into retirement because they
Hmm.
can't afford to retire sooner. So having
Right.
coverage to help cover those bare bone living expenses will become critical to your risk management plan. So that's something that we'll tackle at Paladin is making sure that you're acknowledging the risk that you're taking by not having disability insurance, and if you don't wanna take that risk, what does coverage look like for you? So, if you have dependents relying on you financially, that is a huge flag for us where we wanna prioritize, okay, if you were to become disabled and you are the primary breadwinner in your household, how are you gonna pay the mortgage? How are you gonna pay for your
Right.
dependents, that are still under 18 years old and need you to put food on the table? So,
Right.
that's where it becomes important. Many W-2 employees, most of them have the option of short-term and long-term disability coverage through their employers. That's usually an added benefit from employers, and sometimes you'll have to pay the premium, or sometimes the employer will cover the premium, and it's relatively low. So that is usually the first place of where you should check if you even have the option of coverage through your employer.
Sure.
However, there's plenty of, 1099 freelancers out there, self-employed, independent contractors. There's a lot of those individuals that don't have those employer benefits. So you can sign up for independent policies through an independent agent, essentially.
Sure.
So Paladin can help with that. I do help run quotes on disability for some of my small business owners that come to Paladin,
Sure.
and we'll shop around the independent market. So we usually take in or intake your date of birth, occupation, health status. They want to know if you're a tobacco user or not, and they want to know your current salary. And so if you are in a higher risk job, like many blue collar workers, like you said, truck drivers, electricians, people who are working with their hands, they will likely come back to have higher premiums just because they are in those higher risk jobs.
Sure.
A lot of them won't be eligible for short-term disability, depending on what you do, but oftentimes we can find some type of coverage for long-term disability on whichever insurance provider will output their name to us
Sure.
when we input your information.
Well, that just makes me think, is my job a high-risk job, co-hosting podcasts with Paladin? Co-hosting with Jeff Quick, that's a high-risk job.
I would consider that a high risk
Yeah,
too.
my premiums, if they find out I'm co-hosting shows on a regular basis
mental disorders
with,
talking to that man.
with Jeff Quick, they might up my premiums. So don't tell them.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. Poor Jeff Quick, but he can handle it.
Yeah.
How long-term disability policies generally work. So this is just an overarching generalization of what I usually see when I'm running quotes. You will have to pay a certain monthly premium. So depending on what the statistics end up being for your high-risk job, for your age, for your salary, they'll output a premium for you. And if you were to become disabled, there's typically, what I usually see is a 90-day elimination period.
What does that mean?
So you would have to essentially just wait 90 days before you can file for your benefit. That is typical, but there's other elimination periods for long-term disability. It can be 30 days, 60 days, 180 days, 365 days is the most that I've seen. I don't know if there'd be more out there, but that's the typical range there.
So I wonder why they make you wait to file for your benefit. They want to make sure it's legitimate and long term.
Correct. So then you would get a longer payout of your benefits over time.
Sure.
That's the opposing stance to that would be short-term disability, where you might need to wait 6 days or 7 days before you can file for your benefit. But then that payout would be significantly shorter, and they might pay you out for 30 days.
Sure.
So short-term, long-term.
Got it.
Long-term is usually the one that is a little bit more important. Typically, rule of thumb for most families is if you are disabled for years, you're going to need some type of income supplement. So long-term disability policies, what I usually see generally, they'll pay you out 60% of your net salary income as a total disability. And there's also sometimes a 30% payout of a partial disability. Now, the difference between those two are going to be in the terms and conditions of the contract. And each one of them can be a little different depending on the carrier. So the length of the payout, so let's say that you wait those 90 days for your elimination period, you file for your benefit, you are eligible for your total disability payout. You get that 60% payout of your salary. They can pay you out, depending on the policy that you have, up to a year, 2 years, 5 years. I commonly see up to age 65 is very common. You can get a policy that will pay you up to age 67, which is your full retirement age for long-term benefits. So a lot of these policies also have enhanced benefits called riders, like having a cost of living adjustment to pay out benefits to keep up with inflation. If I implement this disability policy for a 20-year-old and then they end up needing their benefit at age 45, you're going to want to make sure that you have an increased payout to keep up with the cost of inflation between age 20 and age 45.
So cost of living adjustments or increases in the payout are something some of these disability policies offer?
Most of them, you want to double check that it's written into the policy, right? And so it's usually a little nugget of an incentive of why you might want
for a long-term disability
why you might want to use one insurance carrier over another. So that one seems more obvious of why you would want to use a cost of living adjustment rider. You want to keep up with inflation. But there's a lot of limitations and exclusions for coverages too, where they might not pay you out your benefit for conditions that are caused by or the result of engaging in either illegal occupations,
Sure.
intentionally self-inflicting sickness or injury, or being under the influence of narcotics, unless administered by the advice of a physician. So there's also, a whole
Oh,
subset
sure.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
where they might not accept you,
Yeah. Yeah.
depending on
What's your job?
how
I'm the leader of a drug cartel.
correct.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're
You
gonna
don't.
shoot you down after
Yeah.
90 days. Sorry,
Yeah.
buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not good. All right.
So here's the thing, not everyone needs disability insurance. In fact, some people would be fine without it. It becomes less critical the closer you get to retirement age, right? So if you're 63, you've worked your whole life and you have a fine nest egg to retire off of, and the goal is for you to retire at 67. But if something happened to you, it's not going to be detrimental for you to retire tomorrow if that's the case. So that's one thing that I'm usually looking at for my clientele is where are you at in life and where's
Yeah.
your retirement like age set for. So that's one thing. Short-term disability too sometimes isn't quite as crucial because most people will have the goal of having enough in emergency savings, and that emergency savings essentially is to help cover expenses if something were to happen and
Yeah.
you lose your
That's what it's
job, and
for.
that's
Yeah.
exactly what it's for. So
Yeah.
that's why sometimes, short-term disability isn't quite as
But not
important.
everybody has that 6 months
Not
of
everyone
6 months of
does.
income in an
Correct.
emergency fund.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Correct. So if you're in a stable position and you feel comfortable self-insuring, you can rely on those savings instead of putting it towards short-term disability premiums. So bottom line is disability insurance is a key part of protecting your income in case something unexpected happens, but it's not a one size fits all. As always, make sure you consider your own situation, and if you're unsure, always to come speak to a financial advisor at Paladin Financial.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It needs to be part of your overall plan.
mhm.
All of your insurance needs tie into your financial needs, which tie into your overall financial plan, whether it's an investment plan because you're in your 40s, or whether it's in your retirement plan or retirement income plan because you're in your 50s or 60s or you're already retired. I think you have to work with a financial services professional on something like this. And Paladin is there. You guys are happy to help
Mhm.
and you'll answer questions. There's no cost for an initial consultation at
No.
all. How can our listeners and viewers out there get a hold of you if they want to set something up?
Well, I love this question, Tony, because guess what? All of the advisors now have live Calendly links in our website. So
Nice.
paladinfinancial.com. If you check out our bios on our website, all of us have our individual calendars. So you can schedule through us directly on our website. Or if it's easier, just give us a call. So our phone number is 651-842-8406, where typically Lindsay or Carter in our office will answer the phone and they'll be happy to get you scheduled for that consultation.
Yeah, or they can go to paladinfinancial.com and find Ellie
Yeah,
Robison on
correct.
that, right?
Yep, so that Calendly link for all of us, we just put it on our website like a week ago, and I already got my first booking through the
Nice.
Calendly calendar. So,
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
it's
I
very
didn't know
handy.
about that feature. That's great.
I think it's becoming more and more common where people just wanna book online, so that's why we made it a priority to add that
I
virtually.
might go online and just book a bunch of appointments with Jeff Quick to fill up his
You
schedule.
should, he needs it.
I'm kidding. I don't know why I'm on Jeff's case today, but great show, listeners and viewers. Thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Paladin Financial Talk with our guest today,
Yeah.
our host, our main host, not a guest.
Yeah,
You're
thank
the
you,
host
Tony.
of the show, Ellie Robison.
Thanks, Tony.
All right.